this occasion, I'm going to read the articles on the purpose of Montevilla Neighborhood Association, and I think most of you are familiar with it. So the purpose for which this association is organized are to consider and act on issues that affect the livability and quality of the neighborhood, to provide an open process by which all members may involve themselves in the affairs of the neighborhood, to take positions in matters of civic interest and promote those positions in communications, to inform residents of events or plans affecting the neighborhood, to establish and maintain open lines of communication with other organizations such as district coalitions, other neighborhood associations, southeast upward, and city, county, regional, and state government agencies, and for such purposes as are approved by the board of directors or members. So with that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Saul. He's going to talk about some community events.
Matt, are we doing introductions or types?
Oh, let's do some introductions, yeah. Sorry. So, welcome to the meeting. Could we just go around and you can just say your name and what part of the neighborhood you're from or why you're here?
So I'm Jonathan Lewis. I'll be presenting tonight, although I live in Lentz, so not too far away, but happy to be here.
What?
And I live down like 50
Just go around.
I live on 92nd Salmon. Amanda, I'm at 80 Indiana.
David, 81st America.
Amy, 81st in Morrison. Maggie, 80th in Washington.
Deanne, 81st in Holiday.
Bill, I live in
Andia, 79th in Ash.
Neil, 86th in Taylor.
Robin, 92nd in Salmon. Ruth, 87th in Stark.
Foster, 80th in Hawthorne.
Sorry. Sarah, 92nd in Clay.
What was your name? Didn't hear.
Sarah.
Sarah, thanks.
My name's Matthew, live on 76th and Pacific.
Kane, 93rd in Gleason.
Muslim Salt, I'm the Southeast Uplift Liaison for the Montevilla neighborhood. You're on, Dylan.
Hey, Dylan Panboom, I'm 83rd in Burnside.
I'm Brad. I'm on 87th and Pine.
Ron, I'm 93rd in Hawthorne.
All right, thanks for coming.
Good evening, everyone. Again, just to review, my name is Muslim Salt. I'm the Southeast Uplift. Hi, Terry. I'm the Southeast Uplift Liaison for the Montevilla neighborhood. I'll be presenting really quickly just on our programs that we have to support the neighborhood. Our mission is to collaborate with the Southeast Portland community to build informed, inclusive, and participatory neighborhoods that support our social and ecological well-being. That's really broad. What does it mean? It basically means that we're here as an umbrella organization to support the 20 Southeast Portland neighborhoods that are south of I-84, between the river and 82nd, except for Montevilla, which goes out to, I believe, 205. And we support neighborhoods through a variety of programs. One of them is through my role, the neighborhood liaison role. I'm here if you need help connecting to a city bureau, if you're having some issues navigating certain city systems, filling out permits and that sort of thing. I'm here as a community resource. We also have a community and civic engagement small grants program. Our grant cycle just finished up and it'll be opening up again in the fall of this year. We're funding 15 projects this year. I think the closest one here is Rahab Sisters, and they do meals for houseless women and non-gender conforming folks. And they're going to be doing a sort of photography and story sharing project that's going to be funded through Southeast Uplift this year. We also do the neighborhood cleanups. So last year, Montevilla did a cleanup. Hopefully you guys will do another one this year. They help get rid of bulky waste off of the streets and in people's yards. And they also act as a fundraiser for the neighborhood association, so they can raise some funds so they can do some hopefully fun community engagement activities in their neighborhoods. Fiscal sponsorship. In the past, we've been a fiscal sponsor for the Montevilla Neighborhood Association and the Montevilla Jazz Festival. Both of them are now 501c3, so they no longer utilize that service. But the fiscal sponsorship basically extends our 501c3 status to folks in the community who want to work on a project that somehow uplifts their community in Southeast Portland. And so it allows you to seek out grants and tax deductible donations. That program is currently open until the end of this month, so if anyone has a project idea and they want to apply for fiscal sponsorship, you have about 3 more weeks. Land use and transportation, there's a committee that meets every month. The next upcoming meeting is Monday, March 18th. It's a place where community members can go and be informed on upcoming land use and transportation projects that are happening in the community. It's also a way where you can go and advocate in support of or not in support of any one of these projects. We also have a community space. It's where our office is located on 3534 Southeast Main Street. I know for Montevilla it's not the closest place, but it is available as a community resource if you need space for meetings or events, that sort of thing. I mentioned advocacy, but if you have a particular topic in the community that you feel like this needs to be addressed, I would like the Southeast Uplift Board to write a letter in support of or not in support of a certain activity or initiative. You can totally go to our board, present to them, and they will vote and write an advocacy letter. And then the last thing is outreach and communications. If you have announcements that you want to share with the wider Southeast Portland community, feel free to submit things either to me or any of the other staff at Southeast Uplift, and they can be shared either through our newsletter or our social media accounts. Whew, those are our programs. And then apart from that, our upcoming events this month, we're partnering with the Brentwood Darlington Neighborhood Association and Oregon Humanities to do a conversation that's called Won't You Be My Neighbor? How relationships affect where we live, affect the places we live, sorry, I misquoted. And that's going to be a conversation about like being neighborly and how social media and technology and different sorts of personalities and cultural backgrounds affect our relationships with our neighborhoods. The second one, we're actually partnering with the Montevilla Neighborhood Association. It'll be right here at the Portland Metro Arts Center on March 25th. And that one is exploring power and privilege with courage, creativity, and compassion. And that's where we get to sort of break down based on our gender and racial backgrounds, housing status, we all have access to different levels of power and privilege. And so this will just be a short conversation to sort of break that down and talk about it in a non-judgmental space. It can be uncomfortable to talk about something like this, but hopefully this sort of conversation where we talk about it with some creativity and compassion, it can actually lead to healing rather than uncomfort. And then the last one that I mentioned was the Monday, March 18th Land Use and Transportation Committee meeting. That concludes my very short presentation. Any questions? Anything at all? Great. I think I stayed within my limit of 10 minutes. Neil?
What the name for the power and privilege?
It's Monday, March 25th at 6 p.m.
I looked online today and it said it was sold out already.
Ooh, okay. I can open up a few more tickets if folks are interested in signing up. Just make sure you do it within the next day or two, because they probably will fill up very quickly. Yeah.
So there's a calendar on your website?
Yes, there's a community calendar on the website. If you go to our website, you can also sign up for the newsletter. And once a month, I send out a newsletter that has announcements for all the month's events. It's also a great way to get informed on land use stuff, and sometimes we have community members submit articles. So if there's some sort of activity or issue in the community and you feel like you want to write an article, you can totally do submissions into our newsletter. Yes?
I will say the Oregon Humanities Partnership, they're doing talks all over town,
Yes.
so if there's a particular topic that you can't get into, there may be another day.
Yes. And you can also host a conversation. You can partner with them. They send a facilitator. They have a list of topics, and you can host it in any sort of community space. You can even host it in your living room for just your immediate neighbors if you wanted to. Anything else? Great. Thank you. Oh, I forgot to add, as your neighborhood liaison, you all should probably have a way to contact me, so I'm leaving cards up here in case anybody needs them.
All right, Jonathan, you're on.
Actually, I'm on first.
Oh, Terry.
They're with you, Terry.
I I'm Terry Popino. I am one of your 3 crime prevention coordinators. We used to be assigned by neighborhood association, and your last crime prevention coordinator was Mariana Lamonto. But in October, we went to the team model, and so there are 3 of us who are available to help you out. I'm Terry Popino, we have Mary Tompkins, and we have Stacy Booth. So I'm one of 3. And I wanted to let you know, Moose, I don't know if you know about the upcoming shred event and drug turn-in. I can get that info to you. And for everyone, it's going to be at the old Southeast Precinct, which is on the corner of 47th and Burnside. It's 4735 East Burnside. It's on the 27th of April. It is from 10 to 2. And it is a partnership with the Drug Enforcement Administration. That's how we started out doing this. There's one that we usually do in October and one that we do in the spring, usually April. And so it started out as a drug turn-in, and now it also is a shredding event. So if you have medications, whether it's veterinary medications, prescription drugs, expired medications, bring them to us. We'll stick them in a box and they'll be taken to Clackamas County someplace and incinerated. So they don't go into the water supply, and they're also out of grandma's medicine cabinet and not in like farm parties for the high schoolers that dump them into bowls and just take handfuls of them. So that's really frightening.
Can I add something really quick?
Yes.
If you want to accomplish 2 in 1, the North Tabor neighborhood is having their cleanup on that same day, so you can also take some bulky waste over there while you're also taking stuff
It's
away
true.
and shredded.
Hey,
Yeah.
And they're
ours. Hold on.
Is it on the 27th?
Yeah.
Okay, so go to the shortest line.
Yeah, exactly.
Just drive around till you find it.
So,
Yeah.
could you
Yes.
repeat the date and time?
Yes, it is Saturday, April the 27th, last Saturday of the month, 10 to 2. And we don't take sharp at all. We don't take medical equipment like tubing and IV bags. If you have liquid, like a codeine cough syrup that's got a nice tight lid on it, that's fine. And what really is lovely, if you would take your pills out of your bottles and put it into a Ziploc baggie, those compress easier in the box and don't take up as much space. So you don't have to have so many boxes transported. But that's great. Okay, so I brought all sorts of handouts for you. I'm going to give Jonathan the lion's share of our time together. But I wanted to let you know that I have information on crime prevention through environmental design. We call that SEPTED. It just means looking at the environment, whether it's an open space or around your house or around a church or maybe a commercial setting, and things that you can do with lighting and landscaping and physical security to have greater control over your property, so that the people who are supposed to be using it have the safety, and the people who aren't supposed to be using it feel a little exposed, or like there's a little bit of risk there. So it kind of helps keep problems to a minimum. And so that's what the SEPTED handouts are, CPTED, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. All of these are on our website as well, so if there are other things that you're looking for crime prevention resources and you don't see it on the table, you can go to the city's website and look up crime prevention and you'll find us. Excuse me, and then also the crime prevention services and resources. There's something on the back that helps you figure out, should you call non-emergency or should you call emergency? It just kind of takes you through this little roadmap to help you decide. Basically, if you need somebody to respond right now, as far as a police officer goes, because someone is imminently at risk of being hurt or severe property damage, that's a 911 call. If something's already happened, you wake up and somebody took your gnome off your front porch, even though that is an emergency for you, and I understand that, that has already happened and we don't have any suspect information, so that would go to non-emergency. But the police officers want you to know that they want you to call in every single thing that's happening. Because if you don't, they might not know about it. And the way that the chief allocates personnel resources is by the calls for service that 911 receives. And if you're not calling it in, ignorance is bliss and they don't know about that. The 911 calls and the non-emergency calls are answered by the same people. They are non-sworn civilian employees of the city, and they're not police officers. You won't be talking to police officers. If you call 911 and say that you need the fire department to come, you'll be talking to firefighters. The Fire Bureau has someone there who's going to be triaging those calls. And even though the same people answer both calls, if you ever tried to call non-emergency and you're waiting until the cows come home to have somebody pick up, it's because they're answering both lines and they always default to the emergency ones first. So when there's a lull in the emergency line, then they will pick up the non-emergency. If you're calling on your cell phone, they're going to make you hit a button or say something so that they're sure that you really did mean to call them. Because with the advent of cell phones, they got a whole bunch of phone calls that were initiated by people's backsides when we were driving down the road. And it took a lot of time. If you decide that you don't need the police after all, or you don't need the fire or the ambulance after all, you need to stay on the line until they answer your call so you can say, I don't need it. Because if you just hang up, they're going to think that something bad may have happened, and they are compelled by their general orders to send a police car out to check on you and make sure that you're okay. So, I mean, it could have been someone cutting the phone lines. If you have a hardwired phone, the person may have lost consciousness and they need to make sure that you're okay. So that takes up two lines because one is trying to contact the person who called and the other one is trying to get in touch with the police officers who are making sure that you're okay. So that, I know it's a bother, but it saves a lot of time in the long run. I tried to bring handouts for things that I thought you might be experiencing. The Police Bureau has such a shortage of personnel that they cannot provide support in real time to the police officers as far as crime statistics go. So when I called over to East Precinct, which is your precinct, and asked them if they could run some stats for me tonight so that I could share them with you, they said, oh man, it takes up to 6 weeks for us to get the stats back. And so you can go online if you have computer access to the Police Bureau's webpage, and when it says something about data dashboard or crime stat dashboard under crime stats, that's something that tells you how many crimes have been reported. You can put in an address or you can look at your neighborhood association and get the raw information. Nobody has synthesized it down. It hasn't been analyzed. It's just how many calls for service, how many burglaries have been reported, how many car prowls have been reported. So it gives you raw information if you want to look from 1 month to the next, but it's not all that helpful, but it is there. So I brought things about car prowl prevention, and car prowl, depending on what jurisdiction you're in, some places call it car clout, some call it car burglary. It's when someone breaks into your vehicle. They may take something, they might just damage it, they might just, open the door because you've forgotten to lock it. What we found statistically is that cars that are parked in driveways have less prowl attempts than the ones that are parked on the street. So if you have a driveway or a garage, it's safer for you if you use it rather than parking on the street, because people can just go down the road and lift door handles and see if one opens, or they can go down on a bicycle with a flashlight and just kind of look in and see if there might be something there. So if you are going to have valuables in your car, don't take them out of your passenger compartment and stick them in the trunk after you get home. You want to do that before you arrive where you're staying. This is for like holiday shopping. You don't take it out to the parking lot and throw it in the trunk and then go back in and go shopping for more goodies, because people are looking. You know, they're stationed around the parking lot looking for places that they know people have actually got goodies in their car. So if you think like someone who's trying to take advantage, then you can be one step ahead of them and keep things out of sight. We always say keep it showroom clean. That's a difficult word, but that's the goal that you're going to shoot for, to try to keep the rubber ring off your windshield that you put your GPS on or you put your cell phone on, because it's possible that you might have left that in the car someplace, and it takes so little time for people to break in that it's worth the risk to them to break in and see if there might be a cell phone or some sort of electronic in the car. So make sure that you take the charging cord out of the cigarette lighter, stick it in the glove box, and close everything back up so they can't see what you've been up to or what kind of an issue you've had. Does anyone have questions, crime prevention related, that I can answer before we turn it over to Jonathan? Yeah.
It says here in your car prowl prevention,
Mm-hmm.
it says to take your registration,
Yes.
proof of insurance with you.
Yes.
Can we take a picture of that and show that to an officer for pulled over, or do we have to have the
You
documentation?
need the real thing. You don't have to leave it in the car. You just need it in there with you when you're driving. If you're going to park at the airport, take it with you. But if you're parking it on the street or you're just not in the vehicle, people can use that for identity theft. But you really need the real McCoy when you're the officer's going to look at your phone and go, what?
Oregon allows electronic for insurance.
They do for insurance. Oh, that's good to know. Thank you, I will amend that. But your registration, is it the same as it always has been?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, so you don't need your driving insurance, but you do need the registration. Yes,
So you're essentially saying, carry your registration with you.
yeah. Well, or if you're parked at home, take it out of your car and put it in a safe place in your house, which is not the freezer and not under the mattress in your bedroom.
And don't forget it when you go out.
Exactly. Isn't that fun? I know. Okay, so shoot me. I'm just the messenger. It depends, And when I tell you of things to do, I always err on the side of safety. That's my job. You can back it off. You've got a continuum of how safe you want to be at this end and how much freedom you want at this end. And I can tell that you would have much rather go with the freedom in this end as far as the car registration goes. So just make your own decisions based on what you're comfortable with. I leave mine in the car. But I always do things I'm not supposed to according to myself. Like I'll leave the hatchback of my car open and the neighbors will come over and close it for me. Or I'll leave my keys in the front door. Don't do what I say. Don't do what I do what I say. Yes?
Yeah, if you could lock your glove box, I guess that's safe.
It would slow them down.
Yeah.
It would slow them down. So if you have valuables like that, you could also stick it under mats or just kind of hide it in the vehicle someplace where they wouldn't think to look, because they don't want to take too much time when they're rifling around. But
What's the penalty for having it on your phone and saying, look here?
I don't know. I do not know. You could call the traffic division at the police bureau if you could get through. That's a tough one to reach someone at. But if I come back, I will ask and find out for you. But I think I would probably just carry it with me. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carry on. Okay.
Okay, is there anything we have to distribute, or is it kind of as people want?
I think as folks want. I'm Jonathan Lewis. Terry and I are part of different bureaus. She's part of the Office of Community and Civic Life. I'm part of the Office of Management and Finance, and I work in a program it's called the Homelessness and Urban Camping Impact Reduction Program, or HUCR for short. That's our acronym. I did also bring some materials with me today, namely our response to homelessness newsletter. If you didn't get a copy, I would definitely encourage you to grab one. There is a wealth of information within them, and also our one point of contact brochures. And yes, please, yeah, go ahead and come up and grab some. Thank you. So I'm part of the group that administers the one point of contact campsite reporting system. And today I wanted to go over briefly one point of contact, but really I wanted to point out some resources for folks that we have available already online. I wanted to point out our homelessness toolkit. I wanted to talk about different methods of reporting. I wanted to talk about what happens after a report is submitted. And then I've also highlighted some performance measures. And I wanted to talk about some differing organizational roles and responsibilities, namely between our group and then the Joint Office of Homeless Services. And then lastly, I've pulled out some community resources and some helpful links. So with that, one point of contact. It provides a single place to submit reports regarding issues of camping or garbage as a result of a nearby encampment. Individuals can submit reports using either our campsite report form or PDX reporter. You do not need to submit reports using both platforms. You can just pick one, whichever one you like best, and we'll receive those reports. We get anywhere from 400 to 800 reports a week, and we do read and review each and every one. Now that being said, we may not have the capacity to call everyone back. We're a group of 3, and it's not always feasible, but we do make every effort to call folks back that have a question, or if they have an issue, say on private property, or just are looking for some additional resources or help. We will make every effort to call folks back, but we do not have the capacity to call everyone back. But again, each and every report is reviewed. I apologize if I go fast here. There will be an opportunity for questions at the end, of course. This is our homelessness toolkit. You can see the URL there at the top. But on it, there are several resources. We have an FAQ. There's a How You Can Help page that lists volunteer opportunities with different nonprofit organizations. We have a link to maps where you can see the distribution of shelters throughout the city. You can also see a map of all the locations that were reported last week, as well as all the locations that were reported in the last 12 weeks. And then additionally, we have our, my favorite, the newsletter tab. We currently have 4 issues of our newsletter up. What you're holding there is issue 4. It is the latest issue. We just came out with it probably 2 weeks ago. So it is relatively new. This is our campsite report form. You can find this through the portlandoregon.gov website. The main thing when you're submitting a report is really just the location. Be sure to enter just the nearest intersection, and then a map should pop up, and from there you can pinpoint the exact location of where the issue is. Pictures can be helpful, but really just to show location. There's no need to get up close and personal. In fact, I would discourage you to do that. There's no need to do that. Also, no need to submit multiple reports in one day. Submitting a report once or twice a week is entirely appropriate, but there's no need to submit multiple reports in one day. This is PDX Reporter. I think it's a bit easier for folks to use. It really only asks for a location, and then there's a comment box, so it's much easier to submit reports. It does require a login, but after you log in, there are multiple different things that you can report, including abandonados or potholes. However, if you check the campsite reporting button, the report that you submit will come to our group. We post weekly campsite reports every Tuesday by about 4 p.m. Within them, we highlight statistics from the week, such as how many reports we've received, and how many of those reports were people living in vehicles or issues on private property or issues on property other than our own. In addition to that, we highlight locations that we cleaned last week. We show locations that are posted to be cleaned this week, and then we list locations that are to be cleaned next week. So you can find those again on our website. Now, what happens after you submit a report? We have a very complicated looking flow chart here, again, that you can find on our website. And for folks that are interested in looking at it in more detail, again, you can't find that there. However, typically what happens is once we receive a report, we review it, say it's an issue on City of Portland property, typically our first responder is going to be a group called Clean Start. Clean Start's operated through Central City Concern. It's a homeless to work program, but they can respond to issues of garbage within 12 to 24 hours. They'll go to the reported area. If it's an active campsite, they'll engage with the folks. They'll provide street routes, resource guides. They'll talk with them. They'll provide garbage bags. They'll pick up camper identified trash, in addition to any sharps or any other biohazardous material that may or may not be there. And then what they do is they'll take pictures of the area, and they'll send us back an assessment as to what's going on there. And based off of that assessment, we may either post the campsite for cleaning or not, depending on what's going on there. Now, typically, let's say it's a site that has needles, human waste, it's right next to a school. That's going to be a site that we are going to respond to with a posting notice much more quickly than a site where someone is camping in a very low impact way. They're trying to be a good neighbor. They're making every effort just to get by. Now, what does it mean to post? A post refers to the written notification that we're required to give folks that are camping. It gives them anywhere from 48 hours to 10 days to pack up their belongings and vacate the area before we come back and actually clean the site. Anything that's found to be of reasonable value or utility, like property, a tent, or a sleeping bag, we store that for up to 30 days, and folks have an opportunity to come and claim that back for free. We have a storage facility in Inner Southeast. Folks just have 30 days to come back and get it. It's right next to the orange line. So some of our performance measures, we are a relatively new program. We really only started tracking a lot of these, I'd say this last fiscal year. But as you can see, we did close to 3,100 cleanups last fiscal year, collected close to 1,300 tons of garbage, and picked up 346,000 sharps. This current fiscal year, these numbers are only good through October 26, 2018. We have not updated those numbers yet, but we will. But still, the numbers are expected to be much higher as we have increased our capacity as a program, and we're able to be in more locations at once, especially with the use of the Clean Start program that we have. Now, I wanted to just talk briefly about what our role is versus that of the Joint Office of Homeless Services. We're tasked with managing public spaces and doing cleanup. The Joint Office of Homeless Services is responsible for shelter developments. They're the group responsible for providing direct services to individuals experiencing homelessness. We do work with outreach providers, and in fact, anytime we go to clean an area, we notify outreach of the areas that we've posted so that they have an opportunity to make contact with folks and provide them the resources that they're looking for. This map here to the left, again, I've linked it on our own homelessness toolkit, but you can find it on the Joint Office of Homeless Services website. It shows the distribution of shelters throughout the city. Really, anyone seeking shelter should call 211. 211 is the best resource for anyone seeking shelter. I wanted to highlight this as well because all too often when people are seeing someone in crisis or experiencing some sort of an issue, their immediate response is to call the police. But that's not always necessary. There are alternatives to calling the police. And I've highlighted some of these organizations on it's a community resources page. You can find it in the newsletter. In fact, I think it's near the back. But it's got all of the organizations listed here on this PowerPoint slide. Namely, if someone's in in crisis. I mean, if you see someone that is severely intoxicated and need help, there's a group called Cheers that will respond to that. There's another group called Project Respond. They're a mobile response team. They respond to people in crisis. So really, there's some good resources for folks and some good numbers to call if you do happen upon any sort of issue like that. This next slide here, these are just all the links I used to build this PowerPoint, and I'd be happy to share this PowerPoint with the group for folks that would like it. So I'll be sure to do that, so you guys can have that. And this is my contact information. I'm available. I'd be happy to speak with anybody. If you have questions outside of this meeting or aren't sure about a report that you submitted or really anything, please do feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I actually had it at the end of the previous one, but I thought I'd wait, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Because the decision matrix that you put out, I think is really great. But my question was there a 211 versus 911 versus non-emergency decision matrix? Like you said, when you see someone in a mental health crisis, most people's initial response is to call the police, though it's out of police matter, and can be deadly for the people based on the command and control strategy that they're trained. So is there any kind of like, this is the best resource to call for this situation, matrix, if that between those three resources?
That's a great idea. Not that I'm aware of. Are you?
I've heard of a 311 pilot project of sorts that I think the aim is to do exactly that, but I don't know the details.
They would decide the agency.
Right, and that's not up and running yet, but we do have the go-ahead. That's out of my bureau, and it's in the works. The plans are in the works, but it hasn't been set in place yet. I'll take that back though. Yeah, thank you, that's a great idea. That'd be really helpful.
Yes.
What, now 211, what does that, tell me again, what does that get you in the copy?
So 211 offers a variety of different resources, but namely shelter. They have the most up-to-date information regarding shelter, what's open and where. So that would be the group to call.
And they also are kind of the resource for social services. So if you call them up and you may not know what you need, but if you can describe it, they'll help you troubleshoot.
Okay.
And if someone is in need of speaking to someone, they can call them 211 themselves and get help on the phone. So it's not just for resource. And our women's shelter is part of the 211 network. So
yes.
Our women call and call 211, they would drop them off at the new shelter down the street.
Yeah,
so it's a pretty valuable resource.
They'll bring a cab out. I'll call it dispatch a cab. Yes.
So how about Project Respond? What is that program used as the mental health crises?
I can give you an example of that.
Yeah, no, that's great.
As I said, my office is located in the old southeast precinct at the corner of 47th and Burnside. And it was in the summer when the weather was really hot. And I was driving eastbound on Burnside when I approached the intersection of 47, and there was this young woman who was wearing a sundress and was standing in the road. She was about this far from the sidewalk, and I thought, is she trying to get across? But she was frozen in place. She had no shoes on, she had bandages on her feet, and she was very vulnerable because she wasn't interacting. So I went into the office and I said, I targeted someone who had been a reserve officer before, and I said, will you come out with me? And I tried to make contact with her, and she was not connecting at all. But I did manage to get her, kind of mother in back up on the sidewalk, and we called 911. And they called Project Respond, so now I know I should just call Project Respond because she was very vulnerable. She wasn't hurting anyone, but she was at risk of being hurt. And then she started walking down the sidewalk, and so we just kind of followed behind her, and the gal who was with me was keeping 911 up to date at where we were moving toward. But if you see someone who is in a vulnerable position, or, you know, maybe out in traffic, you know, talking or acting irrationally, that might be a project respond. They sent out 2 people, and they wound up calling the ambulance. And she was transported probably to Providence for like a mental screening. That was before we had the Unity Center up and running, where they do those evaluations. But that would be a really appropriate thing.
So the answer in that case was you called 911.
That was before I knew how that they were going to call Project Respond.
Okay.
So if and the officer came all the way out from deep southeast because she knew that there was not a police officer assigned, they couldn't fill the district, and that there was no police officer patrolling that area. And so the police bureau was already, you know, stretched so thinly that somebody else was jumping way over here to take it. And then she had to do that. And if I would have known to call Project Respond, I could have just called them directly and taken the officer out of the equation completely. Yeah.
Do you know what languages are available with the non-comprehensive mental health and addiction services?
It's a really good question. I'm not sure. I would hope that they would have access to a translating service, which I think most agencies do. In fact, I think they would, because I was part of the street count. We had access to that too, so I would think that they would. I don't know.
Question. What is that Project Respond number? Is it the
It's 988 something.
4888?
Yes.
4888?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in this part of the
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And
resources.
Awesome.
if someone were to call in and say that I need help, and they were not an English speaker, 911 has access to a language line, and they will keep the person on the line and get someone to connect them. There are 9 safe harbor languages, is that 10? 10 safe harbor languages that are deemed as safe harbor languages because they are the ones most frequently spoken in the city. And so they very easily can connect with Somali and Arabic and Cantonese and Spanish and the ones that are designated as that. And if it's not something that is a usual thing, they have people who have been screened and trained to serve as interpreters. And they have this list of people who they can contact. So we can get somebody connected with them, and if they're coherent and they're able to convey any sort of information, the city can run interference on that.
So I know there's also a 211 website.
Yes.
Which is where I've gone to see if the warming shelters were open. So is that related? Is it the same function?
Yes.
211 function?
Yes. Yeah, you can call, text, or there's an online. Yes.
So with the sobering station, that's just in the inner cities, you know if they have plans to make satellite ones?
You know, that's a good question. I'll have to follow up with them about that. Yeah, I imagine, or I would hope that they would, but yeah, I'll have to follow up with them.
What happens if somebody, they would probably now, because they don't have it anywhere else except for down on MLK and Cooch, I think. If someone is really drunk or altered, normally what happens is that if you call 911 for that, they send a police officer out and an ambulance and a fire truck, because we get both ambulances and fire trucks. And then they assess the situation, and out here they usually take them to a hospital first just to make sure that they don't have a medical emergency about to happen or that they're in the middle of. I don't know how far out they come, but police officers can call cheers. It's Hooper Detox, that's another name for it. And they can, during the day they have the pickup, where they can send the van out to scoop people up who need help. But if it's not during the daytime and people are not in that service area for the van, officers have transported them in. So they'll, and I have not heard that there are plans to expand that out farther. But we can also find out.
Can you talk a little bit about when Central City Concern might go out to a campsite and give notice, et cetera? What kind of services are offered then to the folks in the campsite, either about transporting their belongings or getting them other kinds of help that they need? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the folks that respond themselves are folks with lived experience, so they just talk with campers to see exactly what they're looking for. So I think that may depend on what folks need. But having that experience themselves makes them relatable and able to provide advice and help as needed. But to be clear, Central City Concern, they're not about collecting property or anything like that. They go just to pick up what is camper identified garbage, talk with folks, help them kind of maintain their area, keep things clean, encourage them to be good neighbors, and then they provide the Street Routes Resource Guide, which is full of all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's a really thick little booklet with tons of different info. Yeah. Just to highlight some statistics, and you can find these again in the newsletter. This is from issue 3. In 3 months last year, they picked up 156 tons of trash. So the other statistics, the performance measures that I highlighted, were not included. These stats were not included. So the Central City Concern statistics are separate from what I reported on. So it's really a substantial amount of stuff that they are picking up. Yes, sir.
This is off topic, sort of, but I have to ask. Is Wapato completely off the table now?
I believe it is, yeah. And in speaking with folks about it, I mean, there was a lot of issues with the site, but something that I took home about it was just it was so far removed from services that it would be really difficult getting there and coming back. And I understand that this is a sensitive issue for folks, but again, as far as I know, it is off the table, yes. Yeah.
Maybe they can turn it into a McMiniman's or something.
We'll see. Any other questions? Again, so my contact information is here. I'd be happy if folks think of something. Oh, yes, sir.
Just a quick question. When we talk about the 10-day close.
48 hours to 10 days.
48 hours to 10 days. The cleaning, is that synonymous with
So we don't like to use the word sweeps. To me, sweeps are done without notice. Typically, they're done by police. In fact, this work used to be done by police. And what had happened was they had taken someone's personal belongings and threw them away. Then the city got sued. And as a result of that, we now have this process that governs cleanups. We're trying to do this in a way that is the least traumatizing for folks involved. And that's why we've developed what we call a risk assessment matrix. We use that so Central City Concern goes out, they'll go to the site, and they'll score the site according to a set of criteria that we've given them. But really it's about, are there needles on the ground? Is there human waste everywhere? Where is it at? Is it next to the school? That's something that's going to score really high, as opposed to someone that is on the other side of the sound wall. They're trying to keep their site clean and tidy to the best of their ability. That's not a site that we're going to respond to as quickly as we would the other one, if that makes sense.
I didn't know that sort of sites.
Yes.
Pretty
Yeah.
much just being responsible. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Another question?
Yes.
What about the relationship between ODOT and the city? Is that, I know there's some legislation passed to kind of like formalize that.
Yes.
Anything new happening with that, or is that a thing?
So that has gone through. That is
Okay.
a done deal. As of the first of this year, we are now responsible for City of Portland right-of-way, and ODOT right-of-way. We're phasing all of their properties in over time, but come July 1, we will have all of them. We have every piece of ODOT property in this area is under our authority, you could say. And they're paying us for it. So, and that's part of the 48-hour to 10-day timeline was a part of that agreement.
And that's based on, the difference in length of time is based on how bad a...
It was really confusing for folks prior. ODOT used to have a 10 to 19-day posting notice, and then we had a 24-hour to 7-day posting notice, and it was really confusing and frustrating for everybody. So as part of this agreement, we decided to make it a uniform timeline across the city, just to alleviate confusion.
And that's based on how quickly you can get to it, or is it based on the camp itself?
Well, I mean, there's a number of different factors involved with that,
Okay.
but namely, we want to give folks time to gather their belongings and, connect with outreach. But also, we have to mobilize our own efforts. Prior to the Homelessness and Urban Camping Impact Reduction Program, it's called Coordinated Campsite Cleanup. So it's really just about coordinating with other jurisdictions to make sure that we're doing this in the least traumatic way possible. Yes, sir.
What's the final thing that's done when the place is cleaned up?
I'm sorry?
What's the final thing that's done when the area is cleaned up?
I would say that the folks that are there take pictures and send them back to us and show it before and after so that we see the site was actually clean. Yeah. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing chemical use or anything like that?
I think that depends on what's there, but typically putting chemicals is really, I can't necessarily speak to this. We have a Rapid Response BioClean is one of our main vendors, and they're certified with that stuff, but they have to make sure that nothing gets down and run off into the storm drain, because that could be really dangerous.
Because people go back to the places they've been.
Yes. Okay, I see what you mean. Yes. No, and so what you're speaking to is actually part of the larger problem. And I think that just speaks to the current crisis that we're in. But yeah, no, that is a difficult thing. So that's where actually we work really closely with Terry's program because they do this crime prevention through environmental design. There's a berm on 79th and Powell that we put a fence around. Just it's putting up fences or certain access restriction things kind of help to alleviate some of that, depending on where it's at, what's going on. Yeah, and exactly. Sure.
That's why there's so much emphasis on referring people and trying to get them connected. And it might be that when they first make contact with a person, it may not be that time that the person decides, yeah, I might be willing to look into this. But, over time, you might hit the person at the right time, and then that's one less person on the street and one more person sheltered.
So, talking to any outreach provider, they'll tell you it's about building trust, and building trust takes time. But in collaboration with the Joint Office of Homeless Services, we put together what's called a navigation team. And it's a set of really specialized outreach workers who have shelter beds on reserve or have access to detox facilities so that when someone is ready, they're going to go out and they'll say, okay, it's today the day, let's go, come on, get in the car, let's do this. And they're piloting that now. In fact, they're in North Portland working an area in North Portland to try and get folks into shelter and connected to the services that they're looking for.
So this biotreatment, this chemical that's used, is this to treat for fleas or rodents or human feces, or what's the purpose?
So again, I can't speak to that. I don't think that they're to be clear, they're not putting chemicals down everywhere that we go. If someone has, if they're cleaning human waste, there is a special thing that they use. I don't know what it is. I can't speak to that, but they're certified by the state, so it's certainly something that would be acceptable under state standards.
quick comment. If you see somebody that's under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or mental issues, many times when they're confronted with somebody in uniform, they become, for whatever reason, combative. So if there's a way to initially contact them with somebody other than a uniformed officer, may be the best avenue. Not always, but it's something to think about if you're confronted with that situation. The officer has to protect himself, and he's only got a couple of options: stun gun and the gun and the pistol, and he's got to protect himself and the other people around.
So that's really the kind of the approach that your organization takes, is to kind of have more of a soft up. So
Yeah, so Cleat Start, we call that an impact reduction service, and it does allow us to be in more locations at once, but in many areas, that's folks' only contact. And again, these are folks with lived experience, and they do try to work with folks as best they can.
So the PowerPoint, are you going to send me a link?
Actually, I'll share it with you. I'll send you as an attachment. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have it.
That's fine. Any other questions?
Yes.
Are there camp locations that have a repeat priority? For example, we see some camps that are cleaned and then within 24 hours, new tents are set up again. Are those listed as priorities, and do they have signs posted that camping is illegal?
So the areas like that are like a maintenance post for us. They're areas that we're going to be there every week, no matter how much we're there. The steel bridge down, we're there every week. So yes, no, there are. In terms of official no camping signage, there is some around Laurelhurst Park that Parks and Rec had developed, but really citywide we don't have an official no camping sign. We do have posting notices that we use to notify folks that, hey, this area is going to be clean, but no, we don't use those typically throughout the city. Yes.
This is not a well-formed question because it's in my mind. Are there any avenues where the neighborhood association could help with that by maybe sponsoring a trash pickup, service then at these areas, or maybe putting in a overlap or something like that is sponsored by the neighborhood association? I don't know what kind of insurance or anything like that would be involved or something like that.
I
So
think
it's going to help mitigate some of the buildup of these issues, which is just part of the perception.
I think that's something that we would have to talk about further. And in fact, I'd be happy to do that. We can connect afterwards if you'd like. I'd be happy to talk about
Moose
that.
has his hand up. He
Oh,
knows
yeah.
something.
Southeast Uplift has a small pot of money specifically that neighborhood associations can access for litter pickups. So for example, if the Montebello Neighborhood Association in the upcoming Earth Day or sometime during that week wants to do a litter pickup, we could totally partner with Southeast Uplift and solve. It could be covered under our insurance, and we have a small pot of money to maybe pay for some trash bags and gloves and maybe even coffee for volunteers, that sort of thing.
So that would be like
Are you talking
Yeah.
about more like a reoccurring sort
Yeah,
of?
so that's a
Yeah.
waste management.
Yeah, like put a dumpster in some place that's kind of centrally
Maybe not something
located,
so
so,
big, but-
yeah,
Or
That's
roll
what they had
carts.
downtown.
Yeah, roll
Like a
carts.
little
Sure.
recycle thing that you have compact.
yeah. So that kind of solution makes everybody feel good. You know, the neighbors who are supporting that feel like they're helping to make a difference, and the people on the receiving end. If you need advocacy, I got your back. I don't know how helpful that will be, but I think it's a great idea.
Another option also, like the new foster fowl shelter that's going in, a couple of the local businesses have volunteered to sponsor trash cans, sort of like the public ones that are on sidewalks, and they'll be paying for like a litter company to come and empty them out weekly. So if there are some local businesses that want to sponsor some trash cans in the neighborhood, that could be arranged also.
Sorry, question?
I cleaned up some belongings that was in the middle of a gravel road near my house that some homeless people had just left. It was there for several days. And I've got a pickle jar full of sharps. And, you know, 50 to 75 sharps that I got out of the stuff before I threw it away. So where do I take that?
Why don't we talk afterwards, I can point you in the right direction. Yeah.
And then this fire station has a two-inch box. And you just dump them, it's just like a mailbox. And any fire station.
Yeah, we actually did install some of those new storage drop boxes throughout town. But yeah, no, thank you, that's very helpful. Yes?
With the trash thing, I pick up trash on Monday, and I work with the church down the street, and they allow me to use their dumpster every Monday, so you could reach out to a business or a church. I know a lot of them are willing to help with that, and because that is a big issue, just you can get people to pick up trash, but it doesn't fit in my can. So, but that's a really good resource to just ask different businesses.
In my neighborhood in Oregon City, there is it's a day shelter that has resources. And I notice now that there is a porta potty a short ways away where it's a little more private. It's still on a road, but it's not a very well-traveled road. It has a pretty mural on the door. I don't know who did that, but you know, there's a electrical junction box on the corner of Stark and 47th that has the same sort of a thing. You've seen these sleeves that people use like that. But that has helped a lot in the neighborhood because people have a place 24/7 around the clock where they can go and go. And that might be something that you could talk to local businesses. You know, what is the business association in the Montebello neighborhood? Okay, you might send somebody from the neighborhood association to go and talk with them at one of their meetings and ask them if they might be willing to either sponsor one in totality or contribute toward that. And it might be that businesses would be willing to chip in, because that impacts everybody. You know, it impacts the livability of your neighborhood, of the shopping district, all sorts of different things. So that's a really great thing to put your energy into.
I just found out that METBA is having a meeting tomorrow 1:30 at Flying Pot.
Ah.
They invited me, but I can't go. So I don't know if it's like come one, come all, or what, but, you know, at least talk to Stephen Rice and see what he thinks about that. Any more questions?
I think he said 1. Was it at 1 o'clock?
1:30.
1:30 at Flying Pie Pizza.
I think those are primarily for the
If it's a METPA general meeting, then anybody's invited. It was a couple times a year. If it's a board meeting, then you want to check first.
Well, they invited him to come.
Right, but in terms of extending it to every.
I see.
I guess call ahead of time.
RSVP.
Brad plus.
Yeah, their website says it's open to all members, so maybe.
Members.
Thank you.
Great.
I think we're
about it on time.
Yeah, time. Any other questions? Otherwise, thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
And
Let's take a 5-minute break.
okay. Or we could start with the agenda items and then, you know, kind of when we cross a certain hurdle, people.
What about the cleanup day?
What about well, we kind of, we are going to talk about that at the board meeting, so we kind of timed out of that one.
Are you going to maybe still present, like, open up, like, member questions before you close the general meeting?
You have a question?
Yeah.
No, but, well, I would like to
Oh, I'm gonna send you.
Very good.
And I would think that-
To the MNA. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
And then, this is something that's not distributed for that.
Well, are you distributing to everybody whose email is on that?
So we are going to commence the board meeting, and basically it's a closed meeting, but you're all welcome to attend and in some respect participate. We need to start by approving the agenda. So what are a couple agenda items that we're going to add?
So I'd like to propose moving Kathy to the top of the agenda.
Oh, okay, she's, all right, yeah. So, is it a C or a K?
Oh, a C, thank you.
C, all right.
Need a second?
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Was there something else?
Yeah, I'd like to propose adding Amanda to the transportation subcommittee, or creating a subcommittee with Amanda Rose as the chair.
Transportation or land?
Land use and transportation.
Land use and transportation, all right. So we'll put that under other business or?
Under new business?
New business, yeah.
And then lastly, board nomination.
Okay, we'll put that in, like at the top,
Yeah,
or right after Kathy.
we'll do it after.
Okay.
And then just to formalize, so I nominated moving Kathy, we've approved. Amanda for the land use and transportation, and then a board nomination.
Right, well,
Should we do a formal vote? I guess is my question.
well, we added the business of Man Roads onto the agenda, so we can vote on the whole agenda. So let's get to one of the important issues of the day. So I have heard, now there's been discussion amongst us, but technically we are not supposed to decide board policy or make board decisions outside of board meetings. So our reflections have been that we need more guidelines for introducing someone as a member who, as an exception to the boundaries. So this came up a month ago, and we had a formal email, and then I had about a dozen emails about this. And one of the things that came up was that, well, the most, sort of like at the top of the list of why we should not accept these people as members was because of where they lived. And this is, and we're just going to get it off, and you don't have to agree with me. But it's not logical for two reasons. One is, if you're going to consider making an exception for somebody or a family, then you already understand that they live outside the boundary. So the fact that they live outside the boundary, you can't use that as a reason why they shouldn't be accepted unless you're not going to consider anybody from outside the boundaries. And I was thinking, okay, what would be like a really good reason to allow somebody to be a member who's outside the boundaries? All right, and so this came to mind. We have an exchange student, he's going to PCC, he or she is going to PCC. They happen to have found housing south of Division, which means they are outside the boundaries. But they want to interface with the community. PCC is in Montebello, so we would look at that and say, yeah, we'll let you be an honorary member. And the second reason that it's illogical is if you say that where they live, 20 feet of asphalt away from the neighborhood, and they're outside, I mean, in other words, that's the reason why you can't consider them. We have two individuals whose names are on the agenda who apparently have damaged their reputation in the community by things they've said and things they have done. And so if the boundary is the most important reason, then you have just voided the whole meaning of what people are saying. Okay? Now, I did not know about some of the things that are going on. And now I'm sick of Facebook. It is doing very bad things to our culture. I think people need to learn to talk to each other. That being said, I understand people's concern, and I don't think there are any excuses for threats. You know, and so I would not want to move forward with it. But here's what we're looking at. The bylaws and the guidelines we have are very unclear, and so we are just going to table this indefinitely. And then sometime, as we're working together, we will come up with very specific guidelines. And those guidelines may include the opportunity for, you know, opposition to a particular nomination. Right now, there isn't a provision for that, other than everybody emails me and urges me to vote no. So can I get a motion that we table the third item?
Yeah, I nominate to table the vote on the church membership.
I second.
All in favor? Okay.
Is there a copy of the agenda available?
There should be some over there.
Okay.
It'll be posted as well. All right. I nominate to approve the agenda as it stands there.
Go ahead.
I nominate to approve the agenda with the addendums I made on the table for the church talk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
So we'll lead off with Kathy. Lead off with Kathy.
I think we have to approve the minutes. It should be over there somewhere.
Finance.
Tell you what, let's go ahead. Kathy. Kathy,
Yes.
go ahead and have a seat and tell us what you got.
Where do you want me?
Just at the table.
Oh, at this table?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so just talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can talk loud enough for everybody to hear you. Okay.
So I'm Kathy, and I'm working for you.
involved, the neighborhoods that were involved were Osterbaum, Lentz, Brentwood, Darlington, Maxwell, Alameda, Hawthorne, Richmond, and we had quite a few others, Oxford, and it just kind of spread out southeast area. And Metro's really kind of the forefront of this because their goal is to reach underserved communities and really reach out into neighborhoods to make sure that there's education going on and people are really aware about the importance of cleanup and how it affects the safety, the camaraderie of the community, and just benefits the neighborhoods. So Kink has been very involved. We did that last year, and then we're putting on this event on June 1st, Saturday this year. And we're expanding to add a few new neighborhoods. If you'd like to see if you would be interested in joining with us. And we've been through it one year already, so we're going to be pretty streamlined this year. But we would need to have your approval, and then just one person that we could count on as the representative of the neighborhood that we could include in. We're probably thinking about 3 more meetings this year before the event. And then we can, at the next meeting, which is March 21st, at 6 o'clock at the City of Portland, 4747 East Burnside office where the sheriff's office is, the police departments where the few people to meet there. We'd love to have a representative from the neighborhood there too. Solve is also part of this program because they help in terms of the neighborhood signups online and then getting volunteers recruited through Solve. So it's really a great
Was there a
teamwork.
central location last year?
We had like 2 locations. One was over by Hawthorne, 39th, at one of the local churches there. And then we had all the neighborhoods, the rest of the neighborhoods met locally at their neighborhood area. And then we met at Glenwood Park. We had a lunch that we provided. And we're getting Cartlandia involved to provide lunch for us this year. So we're working on getting partners to get involved that way. And Southeast Uplift has been involved in helping the neighborhoods with any extra costs that they need to take care of, that Southeast Uplift would help with that.
What are some potential costs that could be associated with the
No,
event?
I don't know if this, the food costs we're trying to take care of.
Yeah.
Snacks we took care of.
Yeah. Honestly, it wasn't my program, so I'm not sure. I would think that it would be things like trash bags, trash
Well,
pickers.
Solve and Metro provided those tools and equipment, the grabbers, the bags, the tools that were important for Sharpies, that kind of thing, and for litter pickup. So they provided all that, and they delivered it to each neighborhood representative. And we have this information too, but we created flyers that Metro printed, we provided the creative and Metro printed and delivered those so they could be posted up into the retail locations around the neighborhood and highlight that this is going to be happening. And then King promotes it on air and online and with all of our on-air talent. We actually have a green team leader, and she's very involved in promoting it. So it's a real huge effort that, with the neighborhood support, that it really went very well last year.
Right. Now, you're familiar with the neighborhood cleanup days throughout the city.
Yes.
Is the scope or the kind of dynamics of this different?
It is different. It's different in that we have volunteers, and there's a little bit of training on the day of the event, but the volunteers are going to be picking up the litter, and we have designated areas within the neighborhood that there'll be drop-off points. Metro has their red trucks picking up the materials, and then we have 2 areas where it's kind of like the church was one area where everybody met up, and then over on 82nd by the Glenwood Park. So it was very well organized that way. So Metro was very important in helping us with the pickup efforts. So it works that way, that volunteers picking up litter, Metro will pick up all those bags and take care of getting rid of them. Yeah.
And then the organization covers the tip fee.
Oh yeah, that's all covered. Yeah. Yeah.
So what participation do you need? Just a representative?
Just a representative, one person that we could invite to our meetings. Like I said, the next one's going to be March 21st, 6 o'clock at the sheriff's office there on 47th and East Burnside, and then we'll probably have 2 more. And at that meeting, we have the neighborhood representatives there, Kink is there, Metro will be there, and Salt. So, and sometimes Southeast Outlook, depending on how that works out, yeah.
And so it probably doesn't have to be a board member if we can
No,
find
just a
someone.
representative,
Just
yeah.
a representative,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, yeah. I'm kind of maxed out and I don't want to volunteer anybody right now.
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately, I already got a commitment for the 1st of June.
Okay, yeah.
So
I'm not volunteering.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to provisionally take it on.
Okay. It's going to be our cleanup day.
Well, let's see.
So. Yeah, you help me find someone, is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I'll definitely help with this. It was the other cleanup thing.
Oh, okay.
Limiting my scope. Yeah.
And is there any other, like a sponsorship that, you know, like?
Metro is our sponsor. It's
Okay.
it was their goal to have this set up, and we came back with the plan, idea. We created the idea for them. And then we are bringing on potentially other sponsors. But we're not asking for you as a neighborhood to be paying as a sponsor. We wanted just you to participate.
Sometimes people just want to put our name on something.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I guess you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, oh, we did do that. We had posters that, I'll leave it behind so my person in there, but it has all of the neighborhood's logos, and those are go up in the retail locations, and then we do online, promote it. We promote it on air, and then SALT will have it as one of the key events. Each neighborhood will sign up under their neighborhood as the neighborhood that paint the town green. And then we got like exposure with the media, other media besides King came out and really highlighted it that day, so it was really well profiled, so we were excited about that. Yeah.
So we're going to support it to the best we can. Do we need
Yeah,
to?
I was going to say, do we need to vote on supporting this?
Yeah, I think so.
I will so move. We support.
Okay, so nomination to participate in the Paint the Town Green, a second.
Yeah.
All in favor of participating in Paint the Town Green?
Aye.
Aye.
We're good.
And then I can just connect with you, gentlemen, in terms of who would be the.
Yeah, I think it'll be.
Oh, okay. Okay, so.
I've got my eyeball on somebody that might be able to.
Oh,
Okay,
that would be awesome.
so we'll discuss that. Yeah, great, thank you for
Okay,
coming.
thank you very much, all of you. Look forward to working with you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So, treasury report?
What'd you do with it?
I gave it to her.
Oh,
Oh, that's how I.
Oh, no, I
We are
did
gonna
not
bring
have
this
that.
up.
I did not have that.
At the beginning of the year, 12/30, good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
12/31/2018, we had combined savings and checking balances of $8,560.52. And at the end of February, we have a combined $7,811.43. And you just cashed the check.
Just deposited the check from Soul or
Southeast Uplift. I can't.
Yeah, Southeast, however you pronounce it, Southeast Uplift. There's a reimbursement check for $1,400.
So all of our expenses for the cleanup day were reimbursed. $1,449. There might be some cents involved in that, but it's not down here. So the total resources we have were $9,200.43. Actually, I think there's a 60 in there. $9,260.42.
We didn't spend any money this month. We didn't spend anything this month, right?
Actually, last month, we have Google Bill, we volunteered money for Muse, and then we paid for the hauler, finally, after all that time. Next time, we'll know what to do. So like that song, you know? Next time, I'll know what better to do. All right. Let's talk budget.
Well, we've got to accept the treasury report first, I believe.
Do we really?
Yeah.
All right. See, I found out I'm not supposed to make any motions, so.
I move we accept the treasurer's report as read.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alright.
Glad you're here, Miss.
So, should we talk about the cleanup day?
Well, that kind of comes into it. So, spoke to Moose today, and we have, are we going to nominate somebody?
Oh, you want to do that first?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to nominate David only for the board. Sorry. Actually, David did prepare a response to the questions that we had. So I guess, David, which...
Right
I read these off, or would you like
What do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah.
Well, okay, let me pull it up, because it was off the cuff, but I don't even think I can do that well now.
So a little background, we formulated kind of a couple of questions for people that are interested in joining the board. If you are interested, there's still lots of open seats. And then kind of asked David if he'd be interested, and he prepared the stuff to bring to us.
So it's really just a few questions about your intents and what you want to do. And one, why do I want to do this? And it's really to foster like a kind and inclusive neighborhood. And also, there's just three of them. So hopefully some of you guys will step up to the plate and join me. As far as like relevant experience, they're asking as far as volunteering. Now my first experience with the MNA was in the mid-aughts with the library drive, which would have been in this building right here with their classes. Which is not in this business now. I've also worked with Cascade League Project managing, running the SCD hotline, which is good experience and non-judgment and just listening to people settling back and trying to access to people who are in really dire situations and sometimes really funny ones. More recently, I've worked with volunteered with the One Emergency Women's Shelter, which is on the street here, and it's part of the 211 network. That's why you heard me comment for a long time on the 211 network, because I think it's amazing. And with the MNA recently, the Montebello made their tune-up last year, briefly 3% on land use, and so generally helping out with the MNA and stuff like that. As far as my priorities coming in, which we all know they may shift and change, because that's the nature of life. I want to focus on the neighborhood plan again, which Phil and I have already discussed, as well as maybe do some more communications outreach that's not digital. You know, one of the things from last year that I had wanted to do was go run around and put posters on all the telephone poles, or all the electric poles, and Brad's like, whoa, you can't do that. And I'm like, what? And it was true. Like, there's a law now that you can't do that, which is why you don't see them on the doors anymore. So I went through and found like every little place that I could go to as far as coffee shops and art places and, you know, Mr. Plywood down the street and neighborhood, like all places you can go, like do so, like, you know. And also my front fence is one of those places too, you can't just, so just right on the street. Yeah, so I want to work on this kind of non-digital outreach because not everyone is paying attention. You know, Facebook algorithm, so it's on in the best interest of MNA's best interest. So outreach. And then, that's it.
Thanks, David.
Yeah. I could vouch for the help you've given the MNA. Actually, not as well, because I haven't been here that long. But, you know, the work you did on the cleanup day was invaluable. Thank you.
You're awesome.
So I'd like to nominate David for the board.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Um,
Are you up for this?
I'll try to be. I may fail. But I'm willing to
How are
change.
your Mondays looking now?
You know what, tomorrow at 1:30 I'm free. So. I'm on
okay.
fine, yeah.
Free pizza.
That's what I heard. That's all I heard. At Fly Pie and some groups going to be there.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, Mondays are fun. So we actually moved it to Wednesday. Couple months ago. Good.
Thank you, David. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Great. And that was planned cleanup day.
Now, you're free to join us or not, as the case may be, because I'm just bumbling through this. I have, you know, huh?
Sectors.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are going to plan a cleanup day next to try
Yeah.
join us.
Maybe
at
you
the
could
table.
explain it to us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Come on up. Grab yourself
So that's
a
all
cup.
it was?
Yeah.
This is a family thing now.
Okay, so
Trade report, outline budget. Okay. I've done a crap job on this. But basically, it comes down to some basics. We have an allotment for communications of exactly $1,961. And so there shouldn't be any reason to not use that money.
sorry, what was the number?
And it's not something that
1,961.
carries over, so if you don't use it, I believe, by the September deadline, then you've lost it. Yeah.
Use it or lose it?
Yes.
By
Okay.
what day? September
Yeah.
1st or 3rd?
I think it's the end of September.
September 3rd.
Yeah.
I remember at the election, David was saying that he got everything wrapped up, like, so maybe it was just. And then, are there any old timers who know what is the most fantastic amount we've ever made on a cleanup day? So Robin, does this come to mind?
I don't know, I don't have info like that.
You don't have info like that?
Sorry.
Okay. Well, anecdotally,
Okay. I went to the cleanup day organizing meeting. They did talk about what they get. And it's been going down over the past couple of years from the other neighborhoods' experiences. I think probably because the fund has remained static and costs have been going up. So neighborhoods were reporting anywhere from barely ending up in the black to, I don't know, $1,000 or two.
okay, so we made 2,000 last year.
Okay, that's great.
That was over the expenses.
That was what?
That was our net, right? Not gross.
That was our net, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. From what I heard.
That surprises me because I lived out right down the street from the parking lot at the Montevilla Church. And years past, I could not get out of my driveway
Yeah.
because people were lined up clear around the block. Didn't happen this year. There was no lines at all, ever, all day or anything. Part of that was, I think, was a lack of communication as to when it happened.
We got out late.
And stuff.
We got out late. That's true. And we're trying to fix that this year.
I mean, it's very annoying when you gotta go somewhere and you can't even get out of your own driveway because the line of cars
And
parked
we
up
did
there.
design it to where they went on that side road. You know, there's
They
a
go
parking
down?
lot at the church, so we actually had
They go and go down Clay and around and then back down Hawthorne and into the parking lot. And in years past, it has been, by 9 o'clock when it starts, there's been a line in pastures clear around, up Hawthorne, clear around and it comes to Clay.
Yeah, we were scared there for a while.
And everyone shows up.
And it wasn't like a cascade, but it did get busy. You know, it was like cars were backing up and everything like that. And we practically filled all 4 of the things.
Well, I think there was a fairly steady flow of traffic because it didn't have to back up at 9 o'clock in the morning for people waiting to get in for the start.
So can we start with the spring or fall?
Spring or fall question?
Yeah.
It has to be spring.
Well, it doesn't have to be.
Well, we had a good one. We have a ongoing relationship with the Monteville Church, used to be Monteville Baptist Church. Traditionally, it has been in the spring. Okay. Have you seen the parking lot where this was? It'd be like the world's most ideal place.
Yeah. So I guess the reason that I was...
we can't look at your person now.
Was it only available in the spring? Is there any reason why we couldn't
They
request to do it in the fall there?
They traditionally, go ahead, they traditionally provide volunteers and the space and people, and they're going to have volunteers anyway, even if they're not actually doing the garbage stuff, just because this is their property, they want to manage it as best they can. And spring is the best time for it.
Okay.
Fall was a hardship. So if we did fall, we'd have to move somewhere else.
Or you just talk with them first, because I think they said that late in September. They seem to lose communication. And they may have communicated something different to you, because you were more in touch with them than I was. Was they just making a couple of decisions that, after everyone's back from vacation and school started, they're starting to ramp up for their Halloween and all their other events that are going on. So it was a hardship on they asked.
Well, not only that, several of the prominent people in the church down there are in construction, and working in construction most of my life, fall becomes extremely busy because all of a sudden people, it's going to start raining, we got to get our stuff in the ground and started before it gets too muddy to do it. And so people in construction, especially the people that are asphalt layers, groundwork, get extremely busy in the fall of the year. And I know they've got a couple of people at least down there that are active in their volunteering that are in asphalt paving and so on.
We can't take commercial stuff.
No. But they volunteer to help with. They volunteer to be on site to help with guiding people. Oh, you've got this kind of stuff. Go to that dumpster or this dumpster, or the little tent they've got set up where you first come in to collect the $5 or whatever donation.
It's gone up a little bit.
Well, whatever.
What we need to do is just validate.
Right.
I guess
We're going to want it to be in the later part of May.
Other sites.
Probably not too close to this other thing.
they're pretty distinct.
I'm not sure what we have to vote on here, but I'm volunteering to contact Kevin Stone and get those details worked out.
Okay.
And
So Pastor Steele is finally retired, or did he?
I guess so. Kevin Stone, have you met?
I
You know
know
who he
Kevin
is?
is, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
He's an associate pastor or something down there for years. Like,
So I guess my concern is just we got to kind of hit the ground running immediately. So,
Well, okay, so
Frank, I'm probably not going to be able to put as much time in the spring as I could later. which is,
Well, that's
Yeah.
why we want volunteers, including volunteers from our group.
okay.
So the sooner we know what we're doing and when we're gonna do it, is better. What kind of lead time did we experience with the fall event? In terms of getting the hauler?
That was pretty quick.
Pretty quick?
That was pretty much, because the linchpin we had was really determined the date I could move to another date. You know, once we had a date, we moved, I'd say, 6 months, 2 months. It wasn't that
Two
much.
week
It seems like it was,
window, or 2 month window.
I think the communication was behind, but that's all pretty much just needs to be updated now. So once we have a date, we can send it to the printer and get the yard signs made. We have enough time to get a good value on it. So we can not too very expensive.
We have all this communications budget.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, no, we need to be responsible. We don't have a very good solution.
So,
So we should
last year, we got reimbursed for everything we spent, including the tip fee. We budgeted 200, I think we need to budget 300, just to make sure that, you know, we're in the clear.
Sorry, 300
So
for what?
I am, I guess,
Sorry, 300 for what?
all additional expenses besides the tip fee.
So it's like the communications.
Communication, printing,
Advertising.
advertising.
Yeah, that's all.
I would so move, raise $300 for that, those additional expenses, even possible expenses that we might not think of at the moment.
And this excludes day of stuff, this is all, so the $300 isn't going to go to snacks or anything, right?
It could,
Okay.
yeah. Anything
Seems
left
like we
over,
wouldn't
not
have more
broken.
than that.
And we need to, yeah,
Although they provided, you know, like they provided lunch, so it was,
that was accidental.
yeah.
That's good, we didn't.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but that's just for the volunteers and it's not for people coming through.
No, that's,
No,
Yeah.
we can probably.
so you second?
Well, I just worry 300 is too low, unless we're kind of setting this for just kind of pre-day of. This is what.
How much did you make last year?
We made a little over 2,000. And we took in, so we just got a reimbursement for 1,449. The ECR fee was 1,194, call it 95. So we're talking a couple hundred there, 250 that was used for other expenses, including printing, what other supplies. So I'm thinking 300.
Maybe we could budget for more than
If we can.
responsible.
Okay.
We can always stay under budget.
Just because you say we're going to budget this amount of money doesn't mean it has to be spent.
Right.
It's just a guideline of this, we want to stay within these parameters.
We don't want it to be like 25% of the potential state.
Okay. David, what do you think as far as a reasonable amount that we should?
So I haven't been the one who spent money. I spent most of it $200. I think for print,
Yeah.
right, it was, if getting the lead time, we get the better value. Right? So I think we can, I think 3, 4, I think 4 is far more than you would think.
I would like to amend my motion to $400 for expenses for the cleanup day, advertising, even possibly if there's some money left in the budget after we've done the pre-dump stuff that we can actually spend for refreshments or whatever for the volunteer staff.
And another thing to consider, last year was a fledgling introduction introduction to recycling polystyrene.
Right.
And we didn't have a hauler for that. I thought my trailer, my utility trailer would have hauled it all. It would have taken 5 utility trailers to get that over.
So that's something that maybe Leona can help us with too, as far as we didn't take a lot of things. But there are resources for this thing if you want to have them on site. And that's, we can discuss that later. But yeah, it feels like it was like very, we collected it for the first time this year. And we were the first neighborhood association to bring the idea out within other people and have their own support, which is fantastic. So they have dumpsters you can just take out to Tiger and drop it in the dumpster. So maybe we put a rental for a truck. Maybe that's part of that. Just quickly from U-Haul. If we had a U-Haul truck just for that day, do that. And then maybe I'm going to contact the other neighborhood associations as well and see what they do. Agility was also planning on having a dumpster on the other side, which would be a huge one.
Yeah,
The response 30-minute drive out to Tiger.
I don't like going anywhere over that way.
Plus it's styrofoam, so it's very bulky, very light. That's what I was afraid.
If there was a way to smash it,
right.
like one of these things on a garbage
get
truck,
Get one of those trucks, which will capture it.
People use it for home insulation.
like a wood chipper.
Like a wood chipper. Yeah, maybe we can get a wood chipper for the day. Down to the tool and everyone.
All right, so there's a motion for $400. I'd like to second that with the understanding that we'll try to get under it.
Well, I mean, theoretically, whatever we spend will be reimbursed, so. Not that we want to overspend.
There is a
Just,
fixed budget. We may not get there's no promise that we're going to get reimbursed for everything. The city has a fixed pool of money. Depending on what other neighborhood associations spend, they'll do their best to try to allocate it fairly.
This is 20%. So we should be able to cover that even with funding.
Yeah. Yep.
20% of what we took in last year, what we take in.
Well, here's a question.
Yes.
A lot of these expenses are communication related.
And you can use your communication.
So we can use the communication side of it.
Yeah, you can use communication funds to have flyers printed. If you're going to be like mailing announcements out and you want to pay for that mail-in stamps or whatever, you can do that.
I'd say that's 50% of that.
Yeah, you can totally do
200
that.
is what we did last year. I would say that's the same. If not more.
So,
Do you have printers we can use?
We do not, but I will say the city printer is cheaper than most private businesses. Yeah, the city has its own like printing services and it's cheaper, yeah.
And that's something we could use as an emergency.
Yep.
and then if we use up all our communications on, then we can start using up the dump day thing. Yeah.
Do you guys do lawn signs?
What's that?
That's what we didn't do last year.
Okay.
Some homes, like, this is too expensive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it, just out of conscience. I wouldn't spend the money on it.
Lawn signs?
Please.
Yeah.
And it was the short notice.
Yeah, that
Really,
makes
if we had
sense.
had the advance notice,
Yeah.
like, we need a month, we have a few weeks to get these back, we had more like 2 weeks.
I know the neighborhoods that do lawn signs get a really big turnout. Richmond especially, they made lawn signs 2 years ago, and ever since then they've like doubled their profits, and they made over $3,000
Like,
last
that's
year.
for
And the lawn signs they made can be reused every year, so they just write in the date and then they can be erased, and then the next year you can write in the date, but then like it still says like want to go and clean up. So if you could do something like that, you could reuse, and you could also use communication funds for those as well.
And some of those items are in storage, like all the signage for the entrance.
Yeah,
Like the
they're
arrows
all-
for
where
the
they're all at.
park. Yeah, they're,
No?
oh, they moved.
We got booted out of there. They're
I don't know
down at,
everything.
they're down at southeast.
Oh, you know. Other neighborhood associations can check them around.
Oh, that's good to know.
It's just big interactive arrows, right?
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Right, so the plan is second half of May, I'm gonna talk to Ken Stone. And by next meeting, we will have a plan in place.
The second half of May for the cleanup.
Clear. What do you
I
think?
thought we were going to be contacting them to see what the latest date would be. Because I think that
I mean, maybe it could go into June?
maybe part of our success was being outside, where families are on vacation. And that was part of our consideration when we chose the date, right? One, we were to them.
Yeah.
To do the same. Two, it was, people were on vacations, their kids were out away. So we did it after school started and after the Labor Day.
Well,
It was one of the 3-day holidays.
September
We did the week after
29th
that.
is pretty far beyond Labor
So,
Day, yeah.
or just one of them. There were a number of considerations, and it can still be earlier than that. Like maybe like.
Well, that's what
end of summer.
that's what I'm gonna find out.
And
Okay.
so it'd just be nice to know if there was a good fit for them. It's not that simple.
Is there a bright, like a bright line on the date for as far as SOL is concerned? Like it has to take place within.
I'm pretty sure to be
2 months?
considered a spring cleanup, it has to be before May 31st.
Okay, so that's.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mid-May.
But we could still get reimbursed as a fall cleanup if it was on June 1st.
I think so. I'm not sure what the dates for fall cleanups are, but I'm pretty sure yes. That would be a MNA question.
I wouldn't think we want to do it on June 1st though, because of the other cleanup.
Yeah,
being
the other
done.
cleanup.
Yeah, with June 1st, you would be competing with Paint the Town Green.
Volunteers. But the other thing you need to consider on the date is the church does use that parking lot occasionally for Saturday functions, weddings, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's why,
So we,
yeah, and we can
yeah.
pull Google Maps up to see if their neighbors, some other places.
So the idea is going to be, we're going to coordinate with the church, try to push it back a little bit to give us some time.
Well, no, see, June 1st is a Saturday.
Oh,
So
no,
that
I
means-
mean, June 1st was just the day after May 31st.
Exactly, so you were just kind of boundary pushing.
Well, no, I didn't mean that as an actual day we would do it. It was just to codify that there are 2 pay grades.
Right, but see, it's like, at the very end of May comes June 1st, and so our Saturday choices are, the 25th, the 18th, the 11th, it just depends. So,
Okay.
So we need to,
What we need to vote on is the budget amount. We need to vote on that.
I thought we did.
Maybe.
No, we have not. I made the motion and I believe it was seconded, but it was never voted on, and then we had to discuss some dates. And the dates is a total separate subject from the
Okay.
funding.
So let's vote on the funding, the expense. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hey, fourth.
Do you have statistics on the dates and the money made
I do not.
that I could grab out to see if we can use it to inform us on when is the best time for us to?
Yeah, I do not. I don't know if those statistics have been measured and exist somewhere out there.
But don't you
But-
get those reports in
Yeah,
from every
you
neighborhood
can,
association to reimburse?
if you connect with Maria, which Dylan, she's the one that manages the cleanup program at Southeast Uplift, and she will have that information, so she could probably share that with you. And I think that information is probably available on the city's website also, although it's a hard website to navigate. So if you shoot Maria an email.
She always knows where to find everything.
Yeah.
She's a master.
Well, I just figure, I've done budgeting before. You look at what happened the last year and you say, let's hope that happens again. So, we're budgeting for $2,000 revenue, and that's over and above our hauling fee everything else.
But I was just thinking, since we seem to have a hard time shifting through either sooner or later, we'll find out what the stats say. If we're looking at getting a bigger return on our investment, let's pull the stats and see what the best projected date is to get the biggest return on the time that we're looking.
Sure. I'll call Kevin tomorrow, find out what dates are available.
And I'll reach out to Miranda to see if she can give us that stat. I can go down to her office.
The only thing I have to say, Mount Tabor's doing theirs on April 27th, so we probably want to stay away from that day and maybe a week on either side. Space it a little bit.
Well, and Memorial Day falls right in there somewhere.
It does.
That's a 3-day weekend, and a lot of people, myself included, are going to be out of town on that.
You mean they're not going to be cleaning out their garages?
Some will, and a lot of people do take advantage of those days toward the end of the school year. Hey, I've still got my kids captured before they're off to summer camp and whatever to do yard cleanup, and it's spring, and so a lot of people do yard cleanup and so on, and take advantage of a 3-day weekend. I've got Monday off, so we'll,
There you go.
so it's, there's pros and cons to doing it on a holiday weekend like that.
Montevilla has a slightly different constituency because even though right here we're just a stone's throw, but up by the church, it's kind of a, we're going to be drawing people from outside the neighborhood over there.
Yeah, let's be very clear that we can advertise it everywhere.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
isn't, you don't have to be
I was
one of
gonna
the
say,
neighborhood residents to come to the cleanup event. And we should be looking at the Willie Weed, Portland Mercury, Oregon Law, like advertise throughout the city. Like we don't, this isn't just, it's money to be raised for the MNA, but we'll take your stuff. And that's where the outreach,
We're right on the corner there between
go
Lance and
last year.
the other community right on the other side of the freeway. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but there's another one right across the freeway. And the church is right in the corner between Montebello, Lance, and the east side of the freeway. Not that even far from Mount Tabor for the folks that find their date inconvenient.
Yeah, people will rotate here, depending on the convenience factor.
Big thing is, like David said, we need to get the advertising out, so to all these neighborhoods, so I guess the first thing is to find out what dates are available.
And I looked at the calendar on school day. I didn't see any of these days.
The only one we know for sure that's happening is April 27th, the Mount Tabor, North Tabor.
Okay.
I think the rest are still.
They're gonna flip through it and
So we'll have the last ones.
just submit the date.
Do we have our game plan?
I think so, you want to check with the church and find out what dates, and David's going to check with Southeast Elkwood to see.
There's better incomes.
Better, yeah.
Can you explain what that was about?
The April meeting?
No, that's what that's for.
Yep.
So we don't need Kathy to come to the next meeting for to talk about the
No, I mean,
Paint Town Green event.
correct. No, I could probably talk about it a little bit, give an update from the meeting, like a 10-minute thing. Yeah.
So we are going to have the next April meeting. We're now going to do business. Did you get one of these? We have part of the money. Anyway, so we're going to have the master recycle.
Yep.
And what is she going to present?
So she has a PowerPoint from the city recycling program. Master recycling, this is a good city program. She's going to go through that and then take questions.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
What was your name?
I'm Aaron.
Aaron. With an A.
Double A.
Double A, all right, I'm Brad.
Brad?
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Hey, no problem. See you guys next month.
Yeah.
So Liana's going to go through that, figure to tie in with our cleanup event. Because a lot of people don't know what you throw out, what you recycle, myself often included.
Oh, yeah. And then there's all the things that you can't take to the dump either.
Yeah, there's a whole nother long list.
Yeah, there's a whole nother.
And I actually have that list, or we can probably get Brendan to resend it, where to send other things. And that's also another thing where maybe consider opening up this thing, other people see.
We're not allowed to take marijuana. You know, like if you have a bunch of marijuana.
I mean, I'll take it, but.
That just goes in the yard waste, right?
Okay. Sometimes my joke.
Yeah, we can talk about the cleanup day during the general meeting as well, if we just want to make it a cleanup themed meeting.
That's it.
I would think it'd be a good idea to talk about it in general meeting, because it might help get some volunteers and stuff.
Yeah, so next
We
meeting
need
is.
to do the date and the budget for it.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully we can get the date nailed down by the meeting. We solicit volunteers.
So next month, basically, it'll be a cleanup day recruitment day.
Okay.
Ready to try that? Okay. Let's do that. Amanda Rhodes, Land and Transport.
Yeah, so Amanda is interested in taking on the Land Use and Transportation Committee, which she doesn't want to be on the board itself, but she'd be willing to chair that committee and help organize those meetings, which I think is good service for the community, because I've been to those meetings and they're interesting.
Okay. I've been to a couple of these meetings.
So,
It's got the experience behind it.
yeah, she has the experience behind it, and it's a good way for the neighborhood to directly advocate with people from the city, Peabody. It's a good way to get our voices heard in that respect. I don't think any of us really want to take on the land use and transportation.
Not when we have an expert.
Yeah.
You taking off?
I am, thank you.
Okay. Oh.
Seriously.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess I'm nominating Amanda to take on she's volunteered, but with board approval to make her the land use and transportation chair, so she can set up those meetings and
I'll second that.
yeah, provide her expertise.
Oh, and you were also authorized to second.
I'm sorry, I jumped third that.
Okay. Yeah. Any discussion?
Should be amazing.
Yeah, she was already doing it.
Intending to be amazing, I think.
All those in favor?
All right.
I move to adjourn. And I'm not supposed to move things, but I'm moving that we're.
I move to adjourn second.
I'll second third.
Okay, you're adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.